letting go of the thing.
Yeah.
And then letting go of specific ways you relate to or think about the
That's
thing
it. Yeah.
are different. Joy is, spaciousness,
Mm.
a trusting in benevolence. It's an atmosphere and a foundation and the ground that you walk on,
Mm.
So if joy is an atmosphere, bad things can still happen, but and hard things still happen, and pain still emerges in our life and in this world. Of course it does. But it happens within a larger atmosphere of the possibility of joy. Now, talk about an illusion you need to let go of. That's a
Right.
delusion that you need to let go of,
Right.
because that's not how life works. That's not how
Yeah.
relationships work.
Yeah.
So sometimes if it gets hard or challenging or there's conflict, we're like, oh, well, I'll just let go and move on. Okay, but if
Posting every day, making sure she's in every frame. Who you're trying to impress? Telling everyone, including my friends, that she's still.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we're sitting down with a repeat guest. His name is Kevin Sweeney. He has a brand new book out called The Joy of Letting Go. And so, Kevin, welcome back to the show. It's great to connect with you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, Glenn. Just like the first one, even with the second book, some of the novelty wears off. Things that were once magical and out at a distance become a part of your life. But even with that said, man, I don't take these opportunities for granted, and I'm grateful for you bringing me on and just taking the time to do this, man. So I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Our last conversation got, I would say, of all the conversations from last year, got some of the most feedback. It was all good feedback, nothing
That's
negative,
cool.
but a lot of people found it very helpful and actually want to pick up your book as a result of our
That's
conversation.
awesome.
So I
That's
think that,
great. There was actually
yeah.
a dude who just DM'd me on Instagram like a couple weeks ago. Was like, I just heard you on Glenn's podcast. Like, had
Oh,
some
yeah.
encouraging words, and I was like, oh, I'm about to do it again. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Not
that's
everybody
awesome.
always has
Yeah.
this encouraging words to say after they listen to the What If Project, but I'm glad that they followed up with some good things for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna try to bring some positive ones your way.
That's right.
Like,
Thank you.
look, we're just talking about letting go. Everybody can do it.
Joy,
It's
all good things.
okay.
Oh, man. All right. So, first things first, last time you were on the show, you had mentioned that you and your wife made the difficult decision of ending the church that I
Mm,
believe you planted. And that was going
mhm.
to send you into this new kind of season of life. So, I was wondering, tell us, how is that new phase going? Like, in addition to writing this great book, like, what have you been up to in this new season of life?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a there's an unplanned poetic connection between the book coming
Mm.
out, a few weeks ago or whatever it was, and the season I'm in.
Yeah.
Because when I talk about the joy of letting go, I don't know if people pick that up, but
Mm.
that title is a paradox.
Yeah.
We don't always think of joy when we think of letting go. We think of clinging, we
Yeah.
think of holding on, we think of fear, we think of a fear of the uncertainty. We wonder whether or not we're going to make it through to the other side when we cross over these thresholds to the unknown.
Mm.
And the book comes out and I'm talking about this book on podcasts like this. I have an event at Barnes and Noble like next Saturday,
Hmm.
not 4 years after a big form of letting go, but while I am just crossed over a threshold of a massive form of letting go in my life,
Yeah.
specifically in a vocational sense. It's not
Yeah.
3 years later when the pastor is like, I once struggled, but it was back then, and I'm
Way
right
back.
here, right now.
Right.
No, I'm after 10 years, like you said, of planting and leading a church, and my wife and
Yeah.
I decided to close it. I'm just on the other side of that. I'm still, healing and coming out of just 10 years, of leading and everything that happens to you along the way. And
Yeah.
I'm in I'm in that in between liminal space where you've said no to the old thing and you're not fully into the next yes. And
Mhm.
you're in between and you don't have a light that lights up your entire future. You have enough light to see the next couple steps, and
Mm.
I'm there again. So I actually, right before we came on, I'll say this about the question you asked and where I'm
Mhm.
at now. right before we came on, I had this moment to reflect. I'm really high up. I'm on the 37th floor in our building. So I'm looking out and I'm saying, wow, like I'm going onto a podcast to talk about my book right now. Actually, in 3 hours, I'm helping lead this retreat for this congregational group of pastors in Michigan.
Hmm.
So I'm doing a couple talks for them later. And I have somebody I really, really like and respect, and I've been familiar with them for over a decade, asked
Hmm.
me to endorse their book. So I
Wow.
told them I'll get it to them by the end of this week. And I just had this moment. I'm like, I'm not all the way wherever I'm going into the next chapter, but this today feels like a microcosm, like in a glimpse, a ray of
Mm,
light to the future. Because I'm like, Kevin,
yeah.
I always said I wanted to lead leaders. That's a part of my desire.
Yeah.
I want to share the work that I've given, like on a podcast like this, to
Hmm.
be invited by somebody you respect to endorse their book. That's really meaningful. So
Hmm.
the today feels like a glimpse and a ray of light into what I hope to be doing more and more, which is to keep leading and keep sharing and keep inviting and keep, on one level, the spiritual teacher is just an alarm clock,
Mm,
inviting everybody to wake up wherever they go with no need for anybody to do it for my own sake, but with a constant commitment to being that for other people for their sake. Because I want people to experience more life. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm in the early stages of building where I'm going,
That's awesome. Well, it seems
Yeah, I
like the book
appreciate it.
came from a personal place. I was curious, knowing
Mm.
a little bit of your backstory, that you were kind of letting go of this really big thing in your life. I was wondering if that helped birth the book a little bit. And it seems like a lot of that personal feeling is in there.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think the real personal, like, that's one thing I realized about myself just from the first two books is I don't have a strong desire to write about topics that are
Hmm.
disconnected from my life.
Yeah.
Like, say, you come up with a topic, like, let's write about desert fathers and mothers in the fourth century and how they left the empire and started these monastic communities and how that's not just a spiritual thing, but it's resistance to empire,
Sure.
which it
Right.
is, by the way. I've
Right.
written about
Right.
that before in grad school.
Right.
um, That's a topic anybody can write on if they do the research, and
Yeah.
that's great. I love those books. Of course, we benefit from those books,
Sure.
but I don't really write like that. I write about stuff that flows out of me,
Hmm.
that I really care about, that's in me. Like, I feel like sometimes writers say I'm writing about what I'm discovering, and I'm more like naturally write about what I've been embodying and what is a
Yeah.
part of me. So
Yeah.
that I've just discovered that about myself. It's cool.
Yeah.
And this book is not, I'm in this final season of letting go, so I'm really thinking about it because I
Hmm.
wasn't thinking about that when I wrote the book, actually. I finished this book in 2021.
Mm,
Um,
hmm,
Over the years, I realized with people, when, being a pastor, people share with you, people communicate to you, they're frustrated, they feel
mhm,
stuck. Here's where they're wanting to get over. And I realized, like, man, virtually every time people are angry, stuck, and struggling to move forward, after all of the rage, the blame, the name calling, the threats, the pity parties we throw for ourselves, the explosive outrage at God, which are all a part of the process, they're all okay.
yeah.
After all of that, I'm like, I could look through that and see the center and say, oh, there's just something really hard you have to accept about life right now,
Mm,
which means there's something you have to let go of.
yeah.
Like, just seen that with people. Like, we fight, we resist, and we desperately want to believe it's a million other easier things than the one thing it usually ends up being, which means after all that, oh, there's something really hard I have to let go of right now. Like,
Yeah.
we would rather just get angrier at injustice and rage against the machine harder.
Yep.
We'd rather just show up to the next event and sing louder.
Yep.
Or for the head-based people like myself, we just read another book and try to figure it out.
Right.
When it's like, oh no, I thought that if I gave this much of my life and my heart and my energy to these people, to this project, to this thing, I thought it would work out like this,
Yeah.
but it didn't.
Mm,
And I feel stuck and angry, but actually I'm just really sad.
mm,
And I'm faced with the illusion I have of, oh, I thought if you tried your hardest, things went the way you wanted always.
mm,
And what I have to accept right now is, oh no, that's not how life works. What do I
yeah.
have to let go of? I have to let go of the illusion that if I give everything I have, the circumstances would turn out the way I want. That's really hard to let go of,
Yeah.
because that idea has probably given you a sense of comfort, given you a sense of self, given you a sense of stability for a while. But now life itself is staring you in the face, being like, none of it works like that. And if you want to move forward past this, there's
Yeah.
some serious letting go. And I could just see that dynamic everywhere, all the time, the past 10 years. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's why I say letting go isn't one thing we do. Letting go is that which holds together everything we do, because it's always just right there,
Sure.
inviting us to move through things through letting go all the time.
That's so good. So who is this book for? Like if you had to narrow your target audience down, who are you speaking to? Are you speaking to younger people who have perhaps a long life ahead of them? Are you speaking to the older crowd? Is it a little bit for everybody? Like who do you have in mind when you're writing this book?
Mm. I mean, there is a universality to letting go.
Yep.
That's why, even for example, as a Christian, like, letting go is not a Christian thing, it's a human
Mhm.
thing.
Yep.
Letting go, you don't have to have any specific metaphysical beliefs about God
Mhm.
to practice letting go.
Mm.
And letting go, I mean, sometimes letting go is actually letting go of the beliefs you had about that metaphysical God in order to keep growing and
Yep.
evolving. So
Yep.
the audience, like, there's a universality, because to me it's for everybody everywhere all the time. That's like a movie title or something like that. That's probably why I said everything everywhere all at once. But I would say there's an invitation. If you're older,
Mhm.
if you haven't learned to let go younger in life, it's really hard to learn when you're older, because you
Mhm.
haven't developed those muscles, you haven't trusted that process, it
Yep.
doesn't feel natural to you.
Mhm.
But you can still do it,
Yeah.
and you can go on you can have new beginnings at any point. And for younger people, I would say the quicker you learn how to practice acceptance,
Mm.
practice forgiveness, and learn the art of letting go, or according to my book, trust the joy of letting go,
Mhm.
man, that will just open up your future, open up your relationships, open up your heart, unleash your courage, open up everything that will allow your life to flow in the future. So
Yeah.
it's a universal invitation that is very particular to each person's life, depending on where they are.
Yeah.
Because there's 1,000 forms of letting go that are probably required over the next few years for you to be as free as you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, when I was reading the book, there's so many, like I thought back over my life of so many different instances where I've had to let go of some
Mm,
expectation or something.
mm,
And it isn't just like one thing or one season. Like sometimes thinking back, even like in school or when I was a pastor, when I left being a pastor, there's just so many different things about my beliefs, about my career, about the goals that I had, like just things I had to let go, and I can look back and I can think about how the struggle to let those things go, because there was part of me that just wanted to white knuckle them and make them
mhm,
work because this was the
mm,
dream, this was the way it was supposed to go. But looking back
mhm,
on it now, like Monday morning quarterback, it's like, man, letting go of that stuff. I wish I would have let go of it sooner. Wish I would have
mm,
released my grip so much sooner because it brought me
mm,
so much life and so much joy.
mm. Yeah, no, that's what it is, and that's why, the title of the book, "The Joy of Letting Go," how one thing has the power to change
Yeah.
everything. Because the writer David Foster Wallace says, everything I've ever let go of had claw marks on it."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what I want to say is, I understand that, and
Hmm.
there's no judgment there, but it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
The process, the beginning point, the actual starting point for letting go doesn't have to happen 5 years from now. It can actually
Mm.
happen 5 hours from now.
Yeah.
Because that's a fascinating thing about forgiveness, acceptance, and letting go, is whether you do it 5 years from now or do it 5 hours from now, or at least begin the process, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
going to be accepting something really hard and letting and feeling something, and that's the hard part. You're feeling your way through. That's what's letting
Mhm.
go is an embodied thing. It's not a
Mhm.
mental thing. It's your mind, heart, and your body have to be aligned and open to do it.
Mm.
And it's embodied. It's physical. It's physiological. When you're really, really accepting something hard, and you've been clinging for years to something, and you finally let go, it's scary.
Yeah.
your heart's racing, your
Mm,
body's filled with anxiety. You think, because a part of you thinks, if I let go of this, will I still be here?
yeah.
Will I still make it? Will I still be me? Will I still matter? Will I still like letting go of pastoral stuff and
Yeah.
beliefs? Will I still have the tribe,
Yep.
having my back? And you discover, oh, letting go of this means the tribe actually won't support me. But the joy of the discovery is like, I never needed that support in the first place to be
Yeah.
me. And actually, my need for the tribal support was actually getting in the way
Yeah.
of the fullness of who I am emerging. So that's why I tell
Right.
people, every time you let go, it feels like you're losing yourself, but you're actually discovering yourself, and the truth of who you are is emerging, which sounds a lot like some of the things Jesus said about letting
Mm,
go, dying to the self, another self.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's some of that
Something in
happening in
there.
the words of Jesus.
Yeah.
So
Some kind of
yeah,
parallel. So when we
yeah,
talk about
letting,
joy, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, go for it.
No, I was gonna say when we talk about joy, because we said that word now a bunch of times. You said I said it. How are we defining joy in terms of the title of the book? Because whenever I go to church, whenever I heard a sermon about joy, it seems like there's always like a different definition attached to it. So when we talk about joy in
Mm,
the context of letting go, what are we referring to?
mm. It's a good question. Let me see. Even right now, when I think about joy,
Hmm.
so often we use metaphors and analogies to talk about God, to talk about the depths, to talk about the things within. Joy is, spaciousness, a trusting in benevolence. It's an atmosphere and a foundation and the ground that you walk on.
Mm-hmm.
So if joy is an atmosphere, bad things can still happen, but and hard things still happen, and pain still emerges in our life and in this world. Of course, it does, but it happens within a larger atmosphere of the possibility of joy.
Mm,
So joy is this bubbling. Everything isn't good, but somehow everything's okay.
mm,
Everything is not as it should be, in the sense of, we know there's injustice, we know there's all kinds of oppression, and even individual things that happen to us. Of course, we know everything isn't good in that sense, but somehow it's all good as a whole. Like, that's a part of the
mm,
paradox in the non-dual mind, says everything isn't good, but everything is okay
mm,
at the same. So joy is this awareness of this larger, spacious, affirmative yes to life and to our lives, and what holds us all together is actually love and joy, and
yeah,
everything else takes place within that context. So
mm,
it's some sort of spaciousness that allows us to uncoil and breathe a little deeper and be like, I'm actually okay. And actually, there's so much beauty and goodness around me. Of course, this part sucks. Of course, this is really painful. Of course, we're still calling out these injustices, but
mm,
somehow mysteriously, there's this undeniable goodness, like a mist that is everywhere, and the glue that is holding all this together. So
yeah.
all I have is poetic answers when it comes to joy, because on a technical level, who the hell knows?
Right. No, I think that's a really good picture because the way I've been thinking of it is almost like it's like life is like this big puzzle, and there's like some pieces that are bright and colorful and lovely. There's other pieces that are really ugly looking when you look at them and they don't really make any sense apart from the bigger picture. But when you put the beautiful pieces together with the darker pieces and everything comes together, it makes this beautiful picture. And I think it's knowing, for me, the joy comes in knowing that although this piece might suck, at the end of the day, it's going to make this beautiful picture. It's okay because somehow it
Mm,
fits into the larger puzzle. That's the way it's been for me.
mm,
That's my
mm,
poetic answer.
yeah, no, I like that. It's good.
Yeah. All right, so let's dig into the book a little bit. One of the questions I had, Kevin, while I was reading is, and I'm sure you're going to have a really good answer for this, but how do you know the difference between needing to let something go and needing to hang on to something? And I asked that because, like,
Mm,
not when I was reading, I'm like, well, not everything needs to be let go, right? Like, sometimes,
mm,
even though something is, I don't know, something's painful, something's hard, we need to hold on to it in order to work through it. Like I think of like a difficult relationship, for instance. Sometimes when relationships get hard, it might feel like we want to let it go, but sometimes the joy in the relationship or the development that we have as a human
mm,
being comes from sticking with it, right? Like same with a job, hobby, maybe a workout routine, whatever. So again, like how do we know when something
Hmm.
that's on our plate or on our shoulders is something we need to think about letting go as opposed to holding on to and working through it? Like what's that
Hmm.
dynamic look like?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question because, letting go has a million different faces
Hmm.
depending on the moment you're in.
Yep.
So that's why even I'll tell people, for example, in their relationship with the church, like say with a specific church, a specific community, I say
Hmm.
sometimes it takes courage to stay, sometimes it takes courage to leave.
Yep.
Sometimes letting go, sometimes you have to let go of individual preferences for a community because
Hmm.
you're overall aligned with them and you think what they're doing is good and beautiful. Though you can let go of some little things in order to stay there well. Other times, if your actual alignment is off and you think what they're doing is genuinely, like on many levels, problematic and dangerous and destructive and oppressive for the world, then you need to let go of your need to be over identified with that tribe and move on. Those are
Hmm.
different forms of letting go
Yep.
for different things,
Yep. Yep.
And I think one way to think about it is I need to let go of anything that is getting in the way of life,
Mm.
of grace, of love, of the truth of the sound of my own voice
Hmm.
emerging, the truth of my own life emerging, the authentic feeling of who I am. Anything that's getting in the way of that is something I need to let go of. So, say, for example, with a relationship, some people, when relationships have conflict, get hard, have problems, they operate with the illusion that relationships are supposed to be easy. And anyone who's been in a relationship for a long time is like, now talk about an illusion you need to let go of. That's
Right.
a delusion that you need to let go of
Right.
because that's not how life works. That's not how
Yeah.
relationships work.
Yeah.
So sometimes if it gets hard or challenging or there's conflict, we're like, oh, well, I'll just let go and move on. Okay, but if you keep doing that over and over when it gets hard, you're not growing.
Yeah.
You're actually not letting go of something getting in the way of your life. You're just refusing to deal with the reality of life in that
Hmm.
moment. Because what the invitation you're talking about as an alternative, sometimes in relationships, there is letting go that's required, but it's not
Hmm.
letting go of the relationship. It's letting go of what I thought I needed from you. Oh, that's a problem. I needed you to be more than you actually can be for me. I need to let go of the expectations, the dangerous expectations I had on what a relationship is supposed to do for me. Oh,
Yeah.
if I can
Mm.
let go of that, now the relationship can flow better.
Yeah.
If I can let go of the need for you to somehow complete me, fix me, make me whole, make like you're totally responsible for my emotional health. Oh,
Hmm.
if I can let go of those things, now the life between us is flowing again. So it letting go has 1,000 different faces depending on our circumstances. And that's where there is no one formula. And the helpful thing as we grow and evolve spiritually is learning to read our own life.
Hmm.
A lot of pastors are good at reading the Bible, but they're not good at reading the text of their own hearts.
Oh man, that'll preach.
A
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
leaders
Yeah.
are good at, you know, recognizing how the spirit was working in the biblical narratives, but not good at recognizing how the spirit's working in and through their own unfolding narrative. This is why we have so many, moral failures, pastors doing all types of insane things while they're preaching all these sermons because they have not learned to listen to, be aware of, and to be in tune with their own life, their own voice,
Yeah.
the sound of what's happening within them, and the sound of the spirit. And that's a part of this situational wisdom and day-to-day things of letting go of. Oh, is this a contracting, clinging energy, or is this an open, liberating energy? What am I
Yeah.
clinging to? What am I stuck to? What can I
Mm.
not imagine my life without? What am I over identified with? What
Mm.
can I like? These are the type of questions we ask to get more of a sense of, well, what do I need to let go of right now? Oh,
Mm.
I realize every time that person does this, I get disappointed. Oh, you know what this really is I didn't realize all the uncommunicated expectations I have on them. I thought if I share my good news with them, they're supposed to react like this,
Right.
affirming, supportive. They didn't. Now I'm disappointed and angry. Oh, if I'm paying attention, oh, I didn't realize I have all these expectations about how people are supposed to respond to good news that I share.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my work.
Hmm.
They're not being the most loving. I can identify that, but still recognize it's actually my ego needs for approval, my unknown expectations of how they're going to respond. That's what's getting in the way of my joy afterwards, and that's what's stealing my peace. Is, oh, I'm stuck on that. Oh, I can let
Yeah.
go of that. Now I let
Hmm.
go of it. Woo! All of this spaciousness. I'm okay. I didn't
Yeah.
need that. And next time I either share with them and know how they're going to respond, or decide I'm not going to share good news with people who don't know how to celebrate it. I can let go of that because it's good either way. So
Yeah.
it's a real situational. Can you pay attention to your life close enough to recognize these things?
And it really, I mean, you really have to be self-aware then in order
Mm,
to have these kind of aha moments. Because like even thinking about what you just said about somebody not responding the way that you expect them to respond to your good news, and making the assumption that they're not being as loving as they could be. They might in their mind be being very lovely, very loving, but just might not
mm,
be the way that they're wired to have that big
exactly.
response that maybe you've come to expect, because maybe that's the way it was for you and your family. Everybody had a big
Mm,
response to your good news, but now you come across this person that doesn't have that response. So it's about letting go of your expectation and the assumption that somebody should always respond over the top
mm,
to your good news.
mm,
But that
yeah,
causes you have to be
exactly.
self-aware for that. You have to know what's going
Totally.
on inside.
Yeah, self-awareness is always the beginning point of transformation. It's not
Yeah.
transformation itself, but without the awareness of that which needs to be transformed, you will never go on the journey to transform it because you aren't even aware of how it's operative in your life and how it's getting in the way. And
Yeah.
that was me coming into the church later. I was always surprised at how little Christians talked about self-awareness.
Mm.
That was one of my big surprises going to Bible college when I was like 21 or something. I was like, how can you teach entire classes on spiritual disciplines or formation or I don't something like that
Right.
and never mention self-awareness? Like, I'm like, information, reading the Bible
Yeah.
is not transformation. It's
Right.
just information.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're teaching people how to read the Bible, and more specifically in a very fundamentalist version of that.
Right.
But you're teaching people how to read the Bible, but not read their own life.
Yeah.
All the injustice, abuse of power, all these things we see pastors doing, it's not because they haven't read the Bible enough.
Yeah.
They've read the Bible more than they need to probably, in my perspective, but they haven't learned to sit with, be aware of, and be present to and name that which is happening within and that which they need to deal with. So
Yeah.
the awareness for me, the awareness is the beginning point in the atmosphere for everything else. Because without it, you don't begin. You just
Yeah.
don't start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's one of the things I really appreciate about my education is, and looking back on it, there's a lot of things that I think were maybe not the best, but the biggest thing I think that was really helpful for me is that in order to start off our doctoral program, we had a class called soul care. And everybody came in to
Hmm.
this, you know, this big thing expecting they're going to learn all this deep theological stuff, and we're going to be doctors of the church. And the first class is soul care, and it's essentially dealing with your crap. And basically the
They're all
professor
though. Here's the first day. They're all here. First question: what makes you sad? You're like,
That's
oh.
right. The professor opened up. He's like, you can't help other people if you haven't helped
Mm,
yourself, and you don't
mm,
have any place in looking into somebody else's life if you haven't looked into your own life. And so we really spent
mm,
a whole semester unpacking our baggage from our past. We had to go through like mandatory therapy. We had to do a whole bunch of different things, and it
so
really
good.
helped me become very self-aware. We had to dig into our family history, write a whole paper like on our
Mm,
genealogy, going all the way back to different things that our family struggled with in the past and how we're going to break those things. Just really good stuff. I think far too many people who are in ministry, I think places haven't had the opportunity, haven't been pushed, I should say, in an education atmosphere to go through
mm,
that kind of a
mm,
process to
mm,
erase that self-awareness. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's so good.
So going back to my question, if I'm hearing you correctly, then we might not have to let go of something big like a relationship, but we have to
Mm,
let go. There's always something within the context of that relationship, for example, that we need to let go. So like I'm going back to when I was a pastor and thinking about like being a pastor of this church. And maybe you're in this position where you're either going to stay in the church or you're going to leave. And you want to
mm,
if you leave, you're going to let go of the church, you're going to move on, you're going to do your thing. If you stay though, there still could be things you have to let go of staying.
mm,
And what you might have to let go of is the expectations that you
mm.
have maybe for that church. So am I understanding that
Exactly.
correctly? So there's a difference between letting go of the church
Yeah,
completely
no,
or letting go of
totally.
your staying and letting go of your expectations of the church.
Absolutely. That's a great distinction. Letting go of the thing
Yeah,
and then letting go of specific ways you relate to or think about the
that's
thing
it. Yeah.
are different. Because
Yeah.
even for example, today, when I'm talking to this group of pastors later on this retreat, and I think about vocation and calling and where they're all at, I'm like,
Yeah.
one of the questions I want to keep asking pastors is, are you more free and filled with joy and at peace than you were 3 to 5 years ago?
Mhm.
Because if not, find something else to do.
Yeah.
Or, or we have to find a different way of
Mhm.
doing this. That's what we're talking about. Sometimes, and again, this is reading our own life, paying attention to our own desires, sensing how the Spirit's inviting us forward. Sometimes you are letting go of the thing.
Yeah.
No one can tell you when it's time to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they can help you discern, but that's us.
Mhm.
Other times it's, oh no, you want to keep leading in a congregational sense. That's amazing. I think the world needs loving, like differentiated, committed pastors. Like I love pastors.
Mhm.
And I'm like, but if you want to, you don't have to stay here and let this completely steal your joy and destroy your life.
Yeah.
Now, if that's the case, letting go is not letting go of the role, it's letting go of the way you experience, relate to, and live out this role. Oh, you're actually still frustrated because you thought if you led this long, you'd have a book deal by now,
Yeah.
and you don't. You're
Yeah.
kind of pissed.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't admit it, but you are.
Yeah.
Or you thought if you were faithful this long, your congregation would be bigger, but it's not.
Yeah.
What do we do now? You're kind of salty about that. You know, you could go, you thought people would be more excited. I don't know. There's a list for
Sure.
people of things.
Sure.
And with those things, for me, like I tell a story in my first book about, you know, a conversation where a woman who's clergy, like on the East Coast, or I forget all the details, but she's frustrated and lamenting and sharing how, like, you know, pastoring and she's done or whatever.
Yeah.
And when, with what she was saying, you discover, oh, none of this has anything to do with the vocational aspect of what she's doing, because she's doing everything she wants to.
Yeah.
She's teaching, she's leading, she's
Yeah.
caring for people, she's teaching soul care, whatever she's doing.
Yeah.
It's not the work itself that's the problem. It's the outcomes, the results, the responses of other people to her work
Yeah.
is where she's getting stuck, frustrated, and upset.
Yeah.
She thinks there's supposed to be more people there. More people should be downloading her podcast sermons or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, oh, well, if you want to stay here and not be obsessed with metrics that have nothing to do with the way of Jesus and not be stuck on, you know, the lack of, you think this isn't significant. Oh, actually, what you have to let go of is how contingent the value of your work is upon the number of people who respond to it the way you want them to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not the work. The work itself is great. You're doing everything you want to do. And this is real. And I've had my versions of this too that I've had to pay attention to for 10 years, you
Yeah.
know? Oh, it's not the work. This isn't going the way I thought to, meaning not enough people are watching me. It all comes down to not
Yeah.
enough people are affirming me, not enough people are paying attention, not enough, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, if we can surrender that part of us that's still looking to the masses, to the public, whoever they are, to the tyranny of they, if we can surrender our need to control their perception of us, our need for them to approve of us, wow, if I really can start letting go of that, I can return to my work with a new sense of joy because it's actually the joy is in the giving, the life is in the creating itself, not in me feeling better or worse about the responses. So
Yeah,
sometimes you're
that's
letting
good.
go of the thing. I would say maybe most of the time, it's actually letting go of how the nature of the thing, or at least how we see the nature of it and how we relate to it. That's probably more the day-to-day work.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly like I was close to letting go of this podcast early on because I started it and it just people did not like it, especially people from my former tribe. And that's
Mm,
really the only people who I had in my life at that point were those people. And I
mm,
remember getting a lot of pushback from my seminary, from professors, from students, from fellow students, church people. And I remember I said to my wife, like, I was like maybe 3 or 4 months in. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like, I feel like this is just like bringing so much aggravation into my life. I'm like, I just feel like it's
mm,
just not working the way I envisioned. You know, I feel like I feel like I need to let this go. And I remember she didn't say it exactly like this, but the essence of what she was saying was maybe you need to let go of how much you care about what these people say about what it is that you're
mm,
doing because
mhm,
you this is your journey that you're putting out there and you're
mm,
rethinking your own thoughts about God, blah blah blah. And like
mm,
maybe what you need to let go is not the podcast, but let go of how much you care about what these people say about it and
mhm,
see what that might
mhm.
bring into your life. And that was really great advice because I mean obviously I stuck with it.
You're like, why do you pierce my heart so
Right.
deep in that moment? You're right.
That's right. But she was so right, you know, and I mean, I think that's the essence of what we're talking about here. Sometimes you have to let the thing go, but sometimes you have to
Mm,
let go of the expectation that you brought to the thing. That's not going to make it as
exactly.
fruitful as it could be for your life.
Yeah, and it seems like that's actually more often the journey is we're not always doing massive forms of letting go of
Yeah,
careers and like I'm in the middle of rethinking and reimagining the next decade of my life, but that's for me once a decade. You
right.
know, the rest of the time was surrendering, accepting, and letting go of the thousand small things along the way that held together the thing I was very committed to.
That's right. That's huge.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. All right, so let me ask you a little bit about how this topic relates to being a parent and raising children, because
Mm.
this is really hard. This is hard for me. I'm going to be personal with you and share something with you. But I struggle with letting go in regards to my daughter who's 5. Her name is Jordan,
Mm.
and I've noticed this especially this year, as the holidays have come and go. She's 5, like I said, and as you know, because you're a father, time goes like unbelievably fast, right? Like you blink, and a week, a month has passed, and they're on to newer things. We're already halfway through kindergarten. She brought on homework yesterday because they're getting her ready for first grade, so they're already gearing us up for like the next phase of life. And what I find so hard is letting go of these what I call these memory making moments, like for instance
Mm.
Christmas. You know, Christmas is this one moment of the year, but it's filled with like 1,000 little moments that become, you know, some of our favorite memories. And this was like such a fun Christmas because she's 5 and she's like at that age where she's
Mm. So
super
great.
over the
Oh,
top
it's
excited,
awesome.
right? About like everything. And she's just it was just so much joy in our house. And then I get to thinking that like 13 years, she'll be 18, you know? So then you think, well, there's only like 13 more of these opportunities that we have before she's an adult. And so I find it like harder and harder and harder to let go of these holiday seasons as they come and go.
Mm.
We took down the Christmas stuff last weekend, and I was on the roof taking off the lights, and literally, Kevin, like tears were coming down my cheeks because it was like
Yes.
letting go
Yes.
of this moment, right? And so I guess my question that I have is like what joy can come from that? Because we have to let these
Mm,
moments go. We can't hold on to them forever. It's not even
mm,
realistic. It's not possible. But like what
mm.
joy can come from letting go of these memory making moments as I call them. And I know that other people have these problems too. Like I'm not the I know I'm not the only one who thinks about this stuff because I've had people say to me that they really struggle with their kids growing up because they miss those moments. So talk to us parents about this concept of letting
Yeah.
go in relationship to parenthood and kids.
No, that's great. And I just did Jason's podcast, Messy
Mm.
Spirituality.
Yep.
Well, he was when I was in California. Well, I know he has there's other people on there, but he was the only one interviewing me at the time. So that's
Yeah.
no disrespect to the other co-hosts. He was
Sure.
the only one on. Um, and I love the idea of the parenting, the deconstruct parenting book that you guys all contributed to.
Mhm.
Love the cover. So I think that was great. And I think it's important. I think it's a lot more practical than people are writing about and talking about right now. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
how do I read the Bible to my kid when I'm like, I don't know what the hell's
I don't
happening
know what
here?
this
How do you
is.
do? How do you do that? You know,
Right.
how do you do that later on? It's a great book.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I mean, it's like I'm like that is like that's really important.
Sure.
Um, our fear of losing the moment
Yeah.
makes it impossible to love the moment.
Yeah. You're right.
Our worry that we're never going to get the beauty back
Yeah.
strips us of the power to receive it in the first place.
Yeah.
This is true for anything in life, but we're talking about kids, right? The magic of Christmas. My kids are 4 and 6. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
The best.
it. This is peak
Yeah.
Christmas magic.
Yeah.
And I love Christmas too. Like I love Christmas junk. I love it all.
Yeah.
I'm not just like it's only about the birth of the Christ. No, I love all the junk.
Everything.
You know, I
Everything. Me
love it
too.
all. And it actually gets at a part of the premise of the book is, you know, the premise of the book is, you know, letting go is beneath the surface of everything we do. So there's a chapter on compassion and letting go, being present and letting
Yeah.
go, justice, working for justice and letting go. Because what I'm saying is letting go is required to do every single one of these things well and to maintain our joy along the way.
Yeah.
And one of the chapters is about being present and letting go. And you think, what does letting go have to do with being present? But that's what we're talking about right now.
Mhm.
Like, in order to be present, you have to let go of the need to cling to any particular moment,
Yeah.
because something that can pull us away from the present is our struggle to accept the passing nature of our experiences.
Yeah.
Right? A part of you starts to settle into the goodness and beauty of the moment, but it's like something's triggered and something happens and we're reminded it's not going to last, and it creates this like sense of fear.
Yeah.
Fear of loss,
Yeah.
fear that it may never get this good again. And this fear of the moment, like I said, the fear of losing the moment makes it hard to simply love the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I told a story in the book about me and my wife. I have this inside joke called Once a Month with my wife. And we have like this ongoing joke to this day where I still say to her, oh, babe, like once a month. And it comes from like us being in our early 20s, and almost any time we would be out having a great time, right? We're just, it's like, you know, the magic of connection and we're living our life. She would inevitably turn to me at some point in the night and say, can we do this once a month? And I was like, that's really funny. And I started, you know, teasing her about it like in a playful way. But I'm like, there were two things at work in my life whenever she would say this. One, she was tuned into the sacredness and the gift of the moment. But two, she would feel a sense of fear that we're never going to get this moment back.
Yep.
So it's like we're still in the moment, and her once a month is a way of saying like, we can do it again, right?
Yep. Yep.
We can recreate this, can't we?
Yep.
This isn't going to be gone forever, is it?
Yep. This
isn't like her fear of losing the particular arrangement of life in the moment, you know, losing the depth and the beauty and the goodness. It's our fear of loss when we're enjoying the present actually has nothing to do with the form of the circumstances. It has to do with our fear of never getting back the substance of life we experience through the circumstances.
Yeah.
It's not the structure of the moment. We're out at this restaurant having a couple of drinks, talking. No, it's the connection. It's the joy. It's the present. It's the substance within the container of the moment. That's actually what we want. And we're scared if we lose the container, if we lose the structure and the form of the moment, the magic and the miracle and the flow of life within it goes with it. And that is what I would say that isn't true.
Yeah.
Joy, grace, presence, these are all infinite fountains that are flowing. They're not limited, you know, like entities with a limited amount of quantity that we're trying to capture. No, this is all flowing all the time. And, you know, Rumi says, don't grieve. Anything you lose comes around in another form. So what do we need to let go of in order to be present as to our kids in this moment? Our fear that it's never going to be this good again. No, you're not going to get back 6-year-old Christmas. Yeah. What's your daughter's name?
Jordan.
Like, you don't get 6-year-old. Yeah, you don't get 6-year-old Jordan Christmas again. And there is some sadness to that. Yeah. And that's okay. we can let go of that time and we can grieve over not having it again. But if we do that well, it puts us in a place to be open and to receive 7-year-old
That's
Christmas
right.
when we do it. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
But we don't need it to be the same what we want is the magic, the connection, and the joy.
Yeah.
I don't need my kids to be this age forever. What I want is connection, joy in this. And if I can, it's like you're perpetually surrendering every moment with your kid and letting the next one be born again.
Yeah.
And anytime you surrendering, letting go, dying to, there is grief in all this. Letting go of something and dying to something are the same thing. And death
Yeah.
always has a grief. So I'm letting go and surrendering the magic of my 2-year-old son to let my 4-year-old son be born again in front of my eyes so I can be fully awake and alive to him. The joy isn't going anywhere. The form of it is just changing.
Yeah.
The connection, the life, the miracle of having a child and sharing that space, that's not going anywhere. And when the form of it, when the structure of, when the particular arrangement of it goes, the joy doesn't go with it. Like Rumi says, it comes around in another form.
Yeah.
My kids are infinitely presenting themselves to me in different ways. And the joy and the presence and the connection is everywhere each time. If I can let go of things being the way they once were and let them be exactly what they are in front of me. My son's 4, dude. He's wearing Jordans, running around, talking to me. He's not 1 anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like those times were special, but once you go through that with kids, like I can't go back, dude. I can't go back to baby life. It's insane.
Right.
But I'm like, I'll see a person with like a 18-month-old. I'm like, man, they're so cute and like little faces. But I'm like, I want my kids to be exactly where they are.
Yeah.
And for me, it keeps on getting better. But the fear of, is it ever, no, that's a part of why I'm a Christian and why I've given my life to God, why I'm the way I am is, no, everything keeps getting better if we're doing the work of acceptance and letting go and surrendering. There is not like grace and love and joy is not this isn't a scare. When people talk about a scarcity economy, this is not a scarce resource in the world. It's not a bucket that only dumps on us once in a while. It's actually a fountain that is constantly pouring. It's flowing out to the world. And that's a big thing. Dying to the shape of this moment.
Yeah.
Trusting the substance of this moment will be born again if I can let go of the shape of it. But if I'm stuck on the way it once was, I'm missing what's right in front of me next time.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's like, I feel like that's like the revelation I had when I was up on the roof taking these lights off, because I was thinking to myself, like, I can either live these moments closed fisted or open handed, right? Like if I need to have my hands tightly clenched around 5-year-old Jordan and this Christmas and things like that, then my hands aren't going to be open to receive whatever 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old Jordan are going to be able to bring to me. Like there's this beautiful thing that happens. Like even looking back over, like you said, about having a baby versus now having like a 5-year-old, there's so many things that have come as a result of 5-year-old Jordan that I would have never had she just stayed a baby. And there's so many things I think that have brought me so much joy in these moments that I didn't have back when she was a baby. So having to let go of those baby moments made room for all these other wonderful moments. And I think it's just recognizing that that's going to be true. It's going to be the cycle as life goes on and as she gets older.
Yeah. And I'm still, even leading a church for 10 years and closing it down less than a year ago, I can look like I had a great experience with the church.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't like when we announced we were closing the church gave us a standing ovation. Like it was as healthy as it could have gone. Like it was a great experience. Doesn't mean it wasn't hard. Pastoring's hard and church planning's even harder.
Sure.
But it was a great experience. And I can look back and be like, the connection, the collaboration, you know, the shared movement towards a future, that's a beautiful thing. And you know what? I don't have that in my life right now the same way. Because I'm starting over in some ways. I'm beginning again, you know.
Yeah.
And there's real grief that comes from letting go of that. But there's a temptation of the ego to try to go back and recreate what was. No. Connection, collaboration, shared life together. That's the substance of it. And my assumption in a world of abundance is those dynamics will be born again in my life in a new way. But if I'm stuck on trying to recreate what was,
Yeah.
I'm not ready to receive the next thing. And I'm not there yet. I'm working towards that. I'm in a new season, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm having to trust that and live that out in the season of letting go myself. Oh,
Yeah.
like collaboration, connection, that's not dead. That form of it is dead because I let
That's
go
right.
of it.
Yeah.
And in the fertile soil of this open space after letting go, that's where the joy and the newness
Yeah.
arises. And that's what the book's about is, man, just trust the letting go, because
Yeah.
letting go always leads to more joy, in the same way in the story we're part of, death always leads to more life.
That's right.
Those are the paradoxes that the spirit is inviting us to trust and to live with.
That's right. That's so good. All right, last question for you. What can somebody do to build this letting go muscle? You talked earlier about how if somebody's older and they spent their whole life not doing this, it can be very hard to not have those muscles now to practice letting go. What can somebody do, young, old, middle, whatever, to begin like building those muscles to let go?
I say this in the intro to the book, I believe. The only way to get better at letting go is by letting go.
Yeah, just got to do it.
Like, some people quote this for Roar. I don't know if this originally came from Henry Nouwen, but whoever
Hmm.
it came from, it's the same, sort of perennial tradition, the same,
Hmm.
river of wisdom flowing through. And I think they're both mature enough. Henry Nouwen's passed away, but in their times to not really care. Um, the quote is, you don't think yourself into new ways of living, you live yourself into new ways of thinking.
Yeah,
It actually starts with embodiment many times,
yeah.
and your mind makes sense of it later.
Hmm.
As a head person, I'm Enneagram 5. My ego doesn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I'd rather read another book. I'd rather read another book and be like, oh, now I get it, and now my life works better.
Yep.
And it's like, no, the only way to get better at letting go is by letting go. The only way to get better at forgiving is by forgiving.
Forgiving.
But the beautiful part, the painful part is you have to do it.
Yeah.
The beautiful part is, like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get at it.
That's right.
It becomes easier because you trust it, because it's a death. You're crossing over a threshold. You're stepping into the unknown. These are all some of the things we fear and we resist the most. That's a part of the defining parts of my faith from the beginning, is that those weren't later in life. Those were the beginning points of me, was death, letting go, surrendering, accepting. That's what faith was. I experienced this God who I could trust my life to. Started letting go and dying to everything. Concrete ego death very early on in life.
Yeah.
Real transcending of having the ego in the driver's seat at the center of your life. And that's why sometimes I'm like, when I was like 17 or 18, I remember thinking, man, I feel like I grow more in 6 months than some people do in 5 to 10 years. And that doesn't mean I'm better than them. It was just like, because I can let go of things and I can accept things and I can move on. I can die to illusions. Oh, I gave my whole life thinking if I was, if people knew me enough, it would make me happy. That's not how this works. Now I can let go of the whole energy system of whether I'm trying to be an athlete or an artist or whatever it is that's trying to get eyes on me. Oh, that's not real. I can let go of that. Oh, that's not how this works. I can let go of that. And every time I let go of it, I'm like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm more alive. I'm actually more me than I was before that.
Yeah.
And when you do that enough, you're like, that which takes that's why I say, whether you let go 5 years from now or 5 hours from now, it's the same process that's going to happen within, same feelings that will arise. Might as well do it 5 hours. And sometimes, to be honest, 5 minutes from now. And sometimes 5 seconds from now. In the moment, I could be talking to somebody. They could say something offensive to me. I can recognize what it was, accept what it is, let go of whatever my ego thought we needed, and I'm still here with you in 10 seconds. You can learn how to do that, in real time with people. So 5 seconds, 5 hours, 5 years. Why wait to let go of the things that are getting in the way of everything we want? So you have to, it's embodied. You have to do it.
Yeah. So good. Kevin, we're just about out of time, but this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for your book. Thanks for taking the time to join me, the work you're doing. I appreciate you and your friendship. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you. You're gonna pick up your daughter and be like, Jordan, you know what? I'm ready for next Christmas.
I'm
It's gonna
ready.
be awesome. Get ready.
Let's
It's not
go.
gonna be the same as last year, but it's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna be amazing. And then I'm ready for the one after that and the one after that.
Nah, man, this is great, dude. I appreciate it. Appreciate what you do and all of the acceptance and letting go and courage that's been required from your end to keep going
Yeah.
benefits me and everybody else who's connected with you. So I appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for your example. I appreciate that. And real quick, where
Yeah,
can people
dude.
go? What's the best places to connect with you online? I know you mentioned it last time, but that was a while ago.
Man,
So refresh people.
day to day, Instagram is where I'm the most active at Kevin Sweeney 1. It's where you can keep up with the things I'm doing, saying, sharing in real time. My own podcast, The Church Needs Therapy.
Mhm.
Half of them are interviews, just about half are me doing my own teachings. New book, The Joy of Letting Go. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pick that up. My first book, The Making of a Mystic, obviously also on Amazon too. And
Mhm.
those are probably the best places, man, to follow along the journey. So thank you.
Awesome. I'll put the links in the show notes and we'll do this again for a third time, I'm
Thanks,
sure.
dude. Yes, sir. All right, I appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Posting every day, making sure she's in every frame. Who you're trying to impress? Telling everyone, including my friends, that she's the one. Making sure I get the message. You always find a good excuse to show her off. But I've never been more over you, so you can't stop. Honestly, I don't care.